First contact. Lieutenant Cassandra, Cass, Blake couldn't help but smile as the decontamination beam passed over her for the 5th time. The machine's insistence on removing dangerous chocolate residue was becoming almost endearing. Here she was, possibly humanity's last hope for cracking the mystery of the most advanced combat suit ever created, and she was being held up by an overprotective sanitization protocol. "I assure you, the human contains no hazardous materials," Dr. ZYX insisted, his scaled fingers dancing across the control panel with increasing frustration. The machine emitted what could only be described as an electronic huff before finally allowing Cass to pass. Chief Administrator Pelno studied her with all 6 eyes, antennae twitching in what she'd learned was a sign of uncertainty among his species. She knew she wasn't what they'd expected. At 5 feet 8 inches with an athletic but unremarkable build, dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, and standard-issue Earth Force fatigues that had seen better days, she hardly cut the imposing figure of humanity's previous representatives. "Lieutenant Blake," Pelno began, his translator struggling to match his formal tone, "I trust your journey from Earth was comfortable." Cass shrugged, adjusting the worn duffel bag on her shoulder. "The quantum jump gave me a bit of a headache, but nothing worse than a tequila hangover." She caught Dr. ZYX mouthing "tequila" to himself in confusion and suppressed another grin. "Yes, well." Pelno's scales shifted through several shades of purple before settling on a diplomatic lavender. "Perhaps we should proceed to the testing chamber. The XR-7439 awaits." As they walked through the pristine white corridors of the Galactic Armor Testing Facility, Cass absorbed every detail. The facility was a marvel of engineering, even by the advanced standards of the Galactic Alliance. Every surface seemed to pulse with barely contained energy, and the air itself hummed with the power running through the building's quantum processors. "I've read the reports," Cass said, breaking the somewhat awkward silence. 48 candidates rejected so far. 49, Dr. ZYX corrected, his tail twitching. "We had another attempt this morning. A sentinel from the Crystal Sphere Collective. The suit played what I believe humans would call disco music and ejected them through an impromptu dance routine." Cass bit her lip to keep from laughing. "Creative rejection protocol. The suit has developed personality," Pelno said, his tone suggesting this was very much not a desired feature. "It appears to have evolved beyond its original programming in ways we cannot fully comprehend." They reached a massive set of doors marked with warning symbols from at least a dozen different species. As they began the complex security scan sequence, Cass noticed something odd about the door's surface. Unlike the rest of the facility's pristine white walls, these doors bore faint scorch marks and what appeared to be impact craters. "Previous rejection incidents," Dr. ZYX explained, noting her interest. "The suit can be enthusiastic in its responses." The doors parted with a pneumatic hiss, revealing a chamber that made Cass's breath catch in her throat. The room was massive, easily the size of a small stadium, with various testing areas arranged in concentric circles around a central platform. But it was what hung suspended in the containment field at the chamber's heart that commanded attention. The XR-7439 combat suit floated in an iridescent energy field, its obsidian surface seeming to drink in the light around it. It was beautiful in the way apex predators were beautiful, all sleek lines and deadly purpose. As Cass approached, she could have sworn the suit turned slightly to track her movement, despite lacking any visible sensors or face. "Remarkable, isn't it?" Dr. ZYX moved to a control panel, bringing up a holographic display of the suit's specifications. "The most advanced piece of military hardware ever created. Neural interfaces that can process thoughts faster than consciousness itself. Adaptive metal that can withstand direct hits from capital ship weapons. Quantum processors that can calculate battle strategies across multiple dimensions simultaneously. And a personality that makes a teenager look cooperative," Cass added, still studying the suit. There was something about it, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. A presence. "Yes, well. Pelno cleared his throat, or whatever passed for a throat in his species. We've tried representatives from every major spacefaring race. Warriors, scholars, technical experts, even pure energy beings. The suit has rejected them all with increasing creativity. So you called Earth, Cass said, finally turning away from the suit to face them. Because when all logical options fail, try something completely irrational, Dr. Zyx finished, his scales flushing a pale blue that Cass interpreted as embarrassment. Humans have a certain reputation in the galaxy for unexpected solutions. Cass nodded, dropping her duffel bag and beginning to remove her jacket. You mean we're crazy enough to try what no one else will? I wouldn't put it quite that way, Pelno protested, but his antennae twitched in what might have been agreement. Well, Cass said, cracking her neck and rolling her shoulders, let's see if this suit wants to dance with a crazy human. The containment field shimmered as Dr. Zyx adjusted the controls, creating an opening just large enough for Cass to step through. As she approached the suit, she could feel the energy in the room shift, like the air before a storm. The suit's surface rippled slightly, and she could have sworn she heard something that sounded suspiciously like a chuckle emanating from its quantum processors. Standard neural interface protocols are as follows, Dr. Zyx began, but Cass held up a hand to stop him. With respect, Doctor, standard protocols haven't worked 49 times. Maybe it's time to try something different. Before either alien could protest, Cass stepped directly up to the suit and placed her hand on its obsidian surface. Hi there, she said quietly, feeling slightly foolish but pressing on. I'm Cass. I hear you've been giving everyone a hard time. The suit's surface was cool under her palm, but not the dead cold of metal. It felt almost alive, vibrating with contained energy. For a moment, nothing happened, and Cass could practically feel Pelno and Dr. Zyx holding their breath, or whatever they held in their respective physiologies. Then the suit moved. Not the violent ejection they'd all expected, but a subtle shift, like a curious animal examining something new. The surface under Cass's hand warmed slightly, and the quantum processors hummed a sequence that sounded remarkably like the first few notes of Hello, Goodbye, by the Beatles. Oh, you've got taste, Cass laughed. I'm more of a Led Zeppelin fan myself, but Beatles works too. The suit's surface rippled again, and suddenly the room was filled with the opening riffs of Stairway to Heaven. Dr. Zyx made a startled chirping sound, and Pelno's antennae went rigid with shock. Lieutenant Blake, Pelno said carefully, step back slowly. The suit has never responded this way before. We need to run proper analysis, N. But Cass wasn't listening. Because in that moment, something extraordinary happened. The suit began to open, plates shifting and sliding with liquid grace, revealing an interior that pulsed with blue-white energy. It wasn't the violent deconstruction they'd seen with previous rejection episodes. This was an invitation. Well, Cass said, a slow smile spreading across her face, looks like we're about to find out why this beauty's been so picky about its dance partners. As she stepped forward into the suit, she had no way of knowing that she was about to uncover a secret that would shake the foundations of the Galactic Alliance, and that the XR-7439 had chosen her for reasons far more complex than anyone could have imagined. The last thing she saw before the suit closed around her was Dr. Zyx's scaled jaw dropping open and Pelno's 6 eyes blinking in rapid succession. Then the world dissolved into blue-white light, and Cass Blake began her journey into a mystery that would change everything. Neural dance. The moment the suit sealed around her, Cass knew this was unlike anything in the briefing materials. The neural interface didn't so much connect with her mind as dance with it, threads of consciousness weaving together in patterns that defied conventional physics. It felt less like wearing advanced technology and more like stepping into a conversation that had been waiting eons for her arrival. Well, this is different, she thought, and felt rather than heard the suit's response, a ripple of amusement that translated itself into her consciousness as a mix of mathematical equations and Beatles lyrics. Lieutenant Blake. Dr. Zyx's voice seemed to come from very far away. Your neural patterns are, this is impossible. The quantum processors aren't rejecting the connection, they're singing, Cass finished, her voice emerging from the suit's external speakers with a slight harmonic undertone that made it sound like she was duetting with herself. They've been singing all along, haven't they? You just couldn't hear the music. The suit's systems were opening themselves to her, not in the rigid, military fashion of Earth Force hardware, but like a vast library sharing its secrets with a trusted friend. Each revelation brought new questions, and with them, a growing sense that she'd stumbled onto something far bigger than a stubborn piece of military hardware. The readings are off the scale, Dr. ZYX muttered, his scaled fingers flying across multiple holographic displays. The neural sync is at 98.7% and climbing. The previous record was 12.3% before rejection. Cass barely heard him. She was too busy discovering what the suit, what XR-7439, really was. You're not just an AI, are you? She thought to her new partner. You're something else entirely. The response came in layers, mathematics, music, and beneath it all, a story that had been waiting millennia to be told. The suit showed her flashes of memory, ancient stars, civilizations rising and falling, and a race of beings that had evolved beyond physical form. The predecessors, as the suit's memories named them, had seeded the galaxy with their technology before vanishing into dimensions beyond normal spacetime. Holy shit, Cass breathed, causing Pelno's antennae to twitch at the untranslatable Earth expletive. You're not a weapon at all, are you? You're a key. The suit's approval hummed through their neural connection. Its surface shifted, plates realigning themselves to better match Cass's body structure. The obsidian black began to shift, reveals hints of deep blue and purple that swirled like oil on water. Lieutenant Blake, Pelno's voice had taken on a nervous edge, what exactly is happening? Cass turned to face them, the movement smoother than any previous pilot had managed. The suit didn't just respond to her commands, it anticipated them, moving in perfect harmony with her thoughts. You've been testing this wrong from the start, she said. You thought it was a combat suit that needed a pilot. But it's not, it's a sentinel that's been looking for a partner. A sentinel? Dr. ZYX's scales had turned a pale yellow that Cass's newly enhanced perception recognized as a sign of intense scientific curiosity. Sentinel of what? Before Cass could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red warning lights pulsed along the pristine white walls, and security barriers began slamming into place. Multiple quantum anomalies detected. A computerized voice announced in several languages simultaneously. Unknown energy signatures approaching through subspace. Oh no, Pelno's 6 eyes widened in horror. Not now. They can't have found us already. Who? Cass demanded, but she was already getting answers through the suit's neural interface. Images flashed through her mind, dark ships moving through the spaces between spaces, beings of shadow and malice that had haunted the galaxy since before the predecessor's disappearance. The Void Hunters, Dr. ZYX whispered, his scales now a sickly gray. They've been searching for predecessor technology for millennia. If they've detected the suit's activation. The facility's quantum sensors projected a tactical display in the air before them. Multiple contacts were emerging from subspace, their ships unlike anything in the Galactic Alliance database. They moved like predators, sleek and deadly, leaving trails of darkness in their wake. The facility's defenses won't hold them for long. Pelno was already moving to the emergency protocol station. We need to evacuate. Lieutenant Blake, you need to get out of the suit now. If they capture it with a linked pilot. But Cass wasn't listening. Through her connection with XR-7439, she was beginning to understand the true scope of what was happening. The suit hadn't just been waiting for the right pilot, it had been waiting for this moment, this specific confluence of events. Doctor, she said, her voice now carrying harmonics that made the air itself vibrate, what's the one thing every candidate before me had in common? Dr. ZYX looked up from his emergency calculations. They were all representatives of advanced spacefaring races. The best their civilizations had to offer. Exactly, Cass smiled inside the suit. But humans? We're barely out of our solar system. By galactic standards, we're practically children. We're not weighed down by centuries of scientific certainty about what is and isn't possible. The suit's surface was now rippling with patterns of energy that seemed to bend light itself. Through their neural link, Cass could feel it preparing something, ancient systems coming online for the first time in eons. The predecessors didn't leave this suit as a weapon, she continued, as understanding flooded through her. They left it as a test. They needed someone who could think beyond the conventional, someone who could see the music in the mathematics. They needed a human, Dr. ZYX finished, his scientific curiosity momentarily overriding his fear of the approaching Void Hunters. Someone irrational enough to treat a quantum-powered combat suit like a dance partner. The tactical display showed the Void Hunters' ships entering the system's outer perimeter. Their weapons were already powering up, dark energy signatures that made the facility's sensors scream in protest. "We need to go," Pelno insisted, already entering the evacuation codes. "Lieutenant Blake, please. You don't understand what they're capable of." But Cass and the suit were already moving. The containment field didn't so much deactivate as harmonize with their combined energy signature, allowing them to step through it like it wasn't there. "Actually," Cass said, as the suit's true capabilities began to unfold around her, "I think I'm starting to understand exactly what everyone is capable of. And I think it's time for humanity's first real dance with the galaxy." The suit's quantum processors hummed what sounded suspiciously like the opening bars of "Another One Bites the Dust" as they prepared to face an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. And somewhere in the back of her mind, Cass couldn't help but think that this was exactly the kind of crazy situation that humans seemed to excel at getting themselves into. The Void Hunters were about to learn why. Dance of Shadows. The Void Hunters' ships cut through space like obsidian knives, trailing streams of darkness that seemed to consume the very starlight around them. Through the XR-7439's enhanced sensory systems, Cass could see them for what they truly were, wounds in reality itself, piloted by beings that had long ago abandoned any pretense of natural existence. "That's not good," she muttered, watching as the tactical display showed their weapons powering up. The suit's translation of their energy signatures painted a grim picture. These weren't just weapons of destruction, but tools designed to unravel the very fabric of spacetime. "Lieutenant Blake." Dr. ZYX's voice crackled through the facility's comm system. "The evacuation protocols are engaged, but we need time. The quantum cores can't be allowed to fall into their hands." The suit's consciousness merged further with Cass's, sharing knowledge that made her head spin. The facility's quantum cores weren't just power sources, they were fragments of predecessor technology, pieces of a puzzle that the Void Hunters had been trying to solve for millennia. "How long do you need?" Cass asked, already moving toward the facility's main launch bay. The suit moved with her thoughts, each step a perfect fusion of human intuition and quantum-enhanced grace. 20 minutes minimum, Pelno's voice joined the channel. "The cores have to be properly contained or the resulting quantum cascade could destabilize half the sector." 20 minutes, Cass repeated, feeling the suit's amusement ripple through their neural link. "What do you say, partner? Feel like showing me what you can really do?" The suit's response came in a surge of power that made every sensor in the facility light up like a Christmas tree. Plates shifted and reformed, revealing weapon systems that defied conventional physics. But more importantly, it shared with Cass the truth about what they were facing. The Void Hunters weren't just pirates or raiders, they were the antithesis of everything the predecessors had built. Where the ancient race had sought to elevate and preserve, the Hunters sought to consume and destroy. They were entropy-given consciousness, decay made manifest. "Dr. ZYX," Cass called as they reached the launch bay, "Quick question, how many of the previous candidates did you tell about the suit's combat capabilities?" "Combat capabilities?" ZYX sounded confused. We have extensive documentation on its weapon systems, shield harmonics, and tactical processing power. That's not what I meant, Cass grinned inside the suit. Did you ever tell them about its dance moves? Before either alien could respond, Cass and the suit launched themselves into space. The XR-7439's true form began to manifest, not just a combat suit, but a bridge between dimensions, a quantum-powered expression of the predecessor's understanding that the universe itself was a dance of energy and probability. The first Void Hunter ship fired, launching a beam of pure darkness that should have torn through any known defense. Instead, Cass and the suit moved like they were performing a cosmic ballet, the attack passing through the space where they had been as reality itself seemed to bend around them. "That's impossible," she heard one of the facility's technicians exclaim. "The suit's quantum field it's singing." Indeed it was. The XR-7439's processors had synchronized with Cass's brainwaves to produce something entirely new, a fusion of human creativity and predecessor technology that expressed itself in patterns of pure energy. Each movement was a note in a symphony of light and power that made the Void Hunter's darkness seem flat and discordant in comparison. "You know what your problem is?" Cass transmitted on all frequencies as they danced between enemy ships, disrupting their formation. "You forgot that destruction isn't the opposite of creation, stagnation is." The suit amplified her words, turning them into pulses of energy that made the hunters' shields fluctuate. Their ships responded with a barrage of weapons fire that would have atomized a small moon, but Cass and the suit were already moving to music only they could hear. The predecessors didn't leave this suit as a weapon, she continued, letting the XR-7439 guide her through maneuvers that ignored conventional spacetime. They left it as a reminder that the universe isn't just equations and entropy. It's rhythm and harmony and the spaces between moments where anything is possible. Through their neural link, the suit showed her what the Void Hunters truly feared, not defeat, but change. They had spent millennia trying to freeze the galaxy in a state of perfect entropy, unable to accept that evolution and growth were fundamental laws of existence. "Lieutenant Blake," Pelno's voice crackled through the comm, "the cores are at 40% containment. But the hunters are trying to breach the facility's lower levels." "On it," Cass replied, feeling the suit's excitement as they prepared to demonstrate another of its hidden capabilities. Time to change the tempo. The XR-7439's quantum processors began generating harmonics that rippled through subspace. Where the Void Hunters used darkness to consume, Cass and the suit used light to create. The space around the facility came alive with patterns of energy that made the facility's scientists gasp in recognition. "Those are predecessor symbols," Dr. Zyx whispered. "The suit isn't just fighting them, it's rewriting local spacetime." He was right. Each movement Cass and the suit made added another layer to a complex quantum equation that was changing the rules of engagement. The Void Hunters found their weapons passing harmlessly through suddenly non-Euclidean space, their ships trapped in loops of probability where cause and effect became suggestions rather than laws. "This is what you never understood," Cass told their increasingly desperate opponents. "The predecessors didn't disappear, they evolved. And they left behind tools not for those who wanted to conquer the galaxy, but for those who were ready to help it grow." The suit's consciousness merged even deeper with hers, showing her visions of what could be, a galaxy where different species work together to explore the infinite possibilities of existence, where technology served life rather than consumed it. This was what the Void Hunters couldn't comprehend, that chaos and order weren't opposites, but partners in an eternal dance. "Cores at 75% containment," Pelno updated them. "But Hunter boarding parties have breached the outer labs." Cass felt the suit's anticipation. "Well then," she said, as they prepared to demonstrate yet another impossible capability, "let's show them why you don't crash a dance party without an invitation." The battle was far from over, but as they turned to face the next phase of the fight, Cass finally understood why the suit had rejected so many candidates. It hadn't needed a warrior or a scientist, it had needed someone who could see the music in the madness, who could dance on the quantum foam and laugh in the face of impossibility. It had needed a human. And now, together, they were about to teach the Void Hunters the true meaning of innovation. Quantum resonance. The interior of the Galactic armor testing facility had become a battlefield of shadows and light. Void Hunter boarding parties moved through the corridors like living darkness, their forms seeming to absorb the emergency lighting. But they weren't prepared for what awaited them. Cass and the XR-7439 phased through the facility's outer wall, their quantum field harmonizing with the building's structure. The suit's transformation had continued, its surface now rippling with patterns that seemed to exist in more dimensions than the human eye could process. "You know," Cass commented as they encountered the first group of hunters, "I'm starting to think these guys don't appreciate good choreography." The hunters turned, raising weapons that leaked streams of entropy. Through their neural link, the suit showed Cass what they truly were, beings that had tried to freeze their own evolution, trapped between states of existence like cosmic quantum errors. "The cores are at 82% containment," Dr. ZYX reported from the Secure Command Center. "But these readings..." "Lieutenant, the hunters aren't just trying to steal the cores. They're trying to reverse their quantum state." The suit's consciousness merged with Cass's, sharing understanding that made her breath catch. The quantum cores weren't just power sources, they were seeds, pieces of a vast pattern the predecessors had scattered across the galaxy. If the hunters corrupted them, they wouldn't just destroy the facility, they'd unravel part of a plan millennia in the making. "Not happening," Cass declared, as they engaged the first hunter squad. The battle that followed defied conventional physics. The hunters fired weapons that should have eaten through reality itself, but Cass and the suit moved like partners in an impossible dance. Each attack became part of their performance. Entropy turned back on itself as the XR-7439's quantum processors rewrote local causality. "Fascinating," Dr. ZYX muttered over the comm, scientific curiosity momentarily overriding fear. "The suit isn't just countering their attacks, it's converting the energy into constructive interference patterns." He was right. Where the hunters' weapons left trails of decay, Cass and the suit's movements created ripples of possibility. The facility's sensors recorded complex quantum harmonics that made hardened scientists gasp in recognition. "These patterns," Pelno's voice was filled with awe, "they match the crystalline structures we found in ancient predecessor ruins. But they're not just similar, they're completing them." Through their deepening neural link, the suit showed Cass more of the truth. The predecessors hadn't just been building technology, they'd been composing a symphony across space and time, each piece of their legacy a note in a vast cosmic song. The quantum cores were like sheet music, waiting for the right performer to bring them to life. The containment process, Cass realized as they drove another hunter squad back, it's not just about protecting the cores, is it? It's about harmonizing them. What? Pelno's confusion was clear even through the comm static. The containment protocols are standard emergency procedures for quantum technology. But Cass could see it now through the suit's enhanced perception. The standard protocols had been carefully designed to create specific resonance patterns. Each core's quantum state was like an instrument being tuned, preparing for something bigger. "Doctor," she called as they reached the main laboratory level, "I need you to modify the containment sequence. Instead of trying to dampen the core's output, amplify it, but match the frequency of the suit's quantum field." "That's insane," Dr. ZYX protested. "The energy readings would cascade beyond any known containment parameters." "Exactly," Cass grinned inside the suit. "Because they're not meant to be contained. They're meant to be conducted." Before the scientists could argue further, another wave of hunters breached the laboratory's outer defenses. But these were different, larger, their forms twisting in ways that hurt the eyes to look at. Through the suit's sensors, Cass could see they were like cosmic antibodies, sent to eliminate what their masters saw as an infection of change and growth in their carefully ordered universe of decay. "The cores are at 91% containment," Pelno reported. "But these new entities, their quantum signatures are unlike anything we've seen. They're not just consuming energy, they're consuming probability itself. The suit's response was immediate and unprecedented. Its surface shifted, revealing patterns that looked suspiciously like musical notes written in light. The quantum processors began generating harmonics that made the air itself vibrate with possibility. "You think you understand entropy," Cass transmitted to the advancing hunters, "but you've forgotten what it really means. It's not just about things falling apart, it's about systems seeking harmony." The suit's consciousness merged even deeper with hers, showing her what the predecessors had discovered, that reality itself was a song, and evolution was its rhythm. The hunters had tried to freeze the music, to reduce the universe to a single, eternal note of decay. But that wasn't how music worked. It needed change, movement, the dance between order and chaos. "Lieutenant Blake," Dr. ZYX's voice was urgent, "the modified containment sequence, the patterns it's generating, they're identical to the crystalline structures in predecessor ruins across the galaxy." "Not identical," Cass corrected, as understanding flooded through her. "Complementary. Like harmony and melody, or rhythm and bass. The predecessors didn't hide their legacy in ruins, they turned the entire galaxy into an instrument." The elite hunters attacked, their weapons bending space itself. But Cass and the suit were already moving to a rhythm that transcended normal physics. Each dodge became a note, each counterattack a chord in a symphony of quantum possibility. "The cores!" Pelno shouted. "They're reaching some kind of resonance point." Through the suit's enhanced perception, Cass could see it happening. The quantum cores weren't just power sources, they were tuning forks, designed to vibrate in sympathy with something vast and ancient that had been waiting to be awakened. "You know what your greatest mistake was?" Cass asked the hunters as she and the suit prepared for what was coming. "You thought the predecessors' greatest achievement was their technology. But it wasn't. It was understanding that the universe isn't a machine to be controlled, it's a song to be sung." The cores reached full resonance just as the elite hunters launched their final assault. But what happened next would change everything, as the true purpose of the XR-7439, the quantum cores, and humanity's role in the predecessor's plan finally became clear. The galaxy itself was about to remember how to dance. Symphony of Stars. The moment the quantum cores reached full resonance, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Through her neural link with the XR-7439, Cass could feel something vast awakening, not just in the facility, but across light-years of space. The predecessor's final symphony was about to begin, and humanity's first note was about to be played. "Energy readings are off the scale." Dr. ZYX's voice crackled through the comm system. "The cores aren't just resonating with each other, they're linking to something, everywhere." The elite void hunters sensed it too. Their attack faltered as ancient patterns began emerging in the air around them, crystalline structures of pure energy that sang with possibilities they had spent millennia trying to suppress. "You feel it, don't you?" Cass asked them, her voice carried on waves of quantum harmony. "The thing you've been running from all this time. Change. Growth. Evolution." Through the suit's enhanced perception, she could see the truth about their ancient enemies. The void hunters weren't just beings who had chosen stagnation, they were fragments of the universe that had become afraid of its own creative potential, cosmic immune responses trying to suppress what they saw as the infection of change. "Lieutenant Blake," Pelno's voice was filled with wonder, "the facility's sensors are picking up identical resonance patterns from predecessor sites across the galaxy. They're all activating." The suit shared with Cass a vision of what was happening. The quantum cores weren't just power sources, they were notes in a vast cosmic scale. The predecessors had turned the entire galaxy into an instrument, each piece of their legacy a part of a composition that had waited millennia to be played. "You know what humans figured out that you never did?" Cass addressed the hunters as she and the suit began moving in perfect synchronization with the emerging patterns. "The opposite of entropy isn't order, it's creativity. And the universe itself is the most creative force there is. The elite hunters attacked with weapons that bent probability itself, trying to enforce their version of reality where change was impossible. But Cass and the suit had transcended conventional combat. Each movement they made added another layer to the growing symphony, turning the hunter's entropy against itself. The crystalline patterns, Dr. ZYX gasped, they're not just energy structures. They're transforming local space-time. The mathematical progression suggests. They're not equations, Cass finished, understanding flowing through her neural link with the suit. They're sheet music. The predecessors didn't leave us a weapon or a defense system. They left us an orchestra. The facility's quantum cores pulsed in harmony with patterns that were emerging across the galaxy. Each ancient site, each piece of predecessor technology, began adding its voice to a growing chorus of possibility. The Void Hunters found themselves caught in a symphony of creation that their entropy couldn't consume. But why? Pelno wondered aloud. Why wait all this time? Why hide the truth in patterns that only humans could? He stopped as understanding dawned. Through the suit's sensors, Cass could see the moment of realization ripple through the facility's staff. Because they knew, she explained, as she and the suit prepared for the crescendo. They knew that eventually, a species would evolve that didn't see music as just mathematics. That didn't see dance as just movement. That could look at the most advanced quantum technology ever created and treat it like a dance partner. The elite hunters made their final push, throwing everything they had against the growing harmony. But they were fighting something they couldn't understand, the fundamental creative force of the universe itself, channeled through the unlikely combination of human intuition and predecessor technology. The predecessors didn't disappear, Cass continued, feeling the suit's consciousness merge completely with hers. They evolved. Became part of the universe's own creative force. And they left behind everything we needed to follow them, not by conquering or controlling, but by learning to dance with reality itself. The quantum cores reached their final resonance point, and the truth of the XR 7439's purpose became clear. It wasn't just a combat suit or even a key, it was a conductor's baton, designed to help orchestrate the galaxy's evolution to its next movement. Lieutenant, Dr. ZYX's voice was filled with amazement, the crystalline patterns, they're not just transforming space-time. They're transforming the hunters themselves. He was right. The entropy-based beings found themselves caught in a web of creative force they couldn't resist. Their attempts to impose stagnation were being turned into catalysts for change, their darkness transformed into new forms of light. You never understood what the predecessors were trying to tell us, Cass told them as the transformation began. Evolution isn't about becoming more powerful or more ordered. It's about becoming more creative, more capable of adding your own voice to the universe's song. The suit showed her what was happening across the galaxy. Each activated site, each awakened piece of technology, was adding its voice to a harmony that was changing the very nature of reality. The Void Hunters weren't being destroyed, they were being invited to rejoin the dance they had tried to stop. Core resonance at maximum. Pelno reported. The patterns are there. I don't have words for what they're doing. But Cass did. Through her connection with the suit, she could feel the symphony reaching its peak. The predecessor's final gift wasn't a weapon to defeat their enemies, it was a song to remind the galaxy how to dream. You know what the real secret is? She asked as the transformation reached its climax. The universe isn't a battlefield or a puzzle to be solved. It's a dance floor, and every species, every particle, every possibility gets to contribute to the music. The crystalline patterns reached critical mass, and reality itself seemed to skip a beat. In that moment, the Void Hunters faced a choice they had been running from since the beginning: evolve or fade away. To everyone's amazement, they chose evolution. The beings of entropy began to change, their darkness transforming into new forms of energy that hummed in harmony with the galaxy's song. They had spent millennia trying to freeze the dance, only to discover that they had been part of the choreography all along. As the transformation completed, Cass and the suit landed gently in the facility's main chamber. The emergency lights had been replaced by softly pulsing patterns that matched the rhythm of the quantum cores. Dr. ZYX and Pelno emerged from the command center, their expressions a mixture of awe and disbelief. "Lieutenant Blake," Pelno said quietly, "what just happened?" Cass felt the suit's amusement as they answered together, their voices harmonizing in a way that made the air itself vibrate with possibility. "We just helped the galaxy remember how to dance." The XR 7439 surface rippled one last time, showing them visions of what was to come. The transformation they had triggered wasn't an ending, it was an overture. The predecessors hadn't ascended to some higher plane, they had become part of the creative force that drove the universe's evolution. And now, they had shown humanity how to help conduct the next movement. "So," Dr. ZYX asked, his scales shifting through colors of wonder and curiosity, "what happens now?" Cass smiled inside the suit, feeling the rhythm of possibility pulsing through their neural link. Now we learn some new steps. After all, the galaxy's got a lot of dancing to catch up on." And somewhere, in the quantum spaces between moments, she could have sworn she heard the universe itself beginning to sing.